Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And Sony had a little bit of a mixed day. On one side, they just made history with the PlayStation 5 breaking a pretty extraordinary record, though unfortunately, it also appears their PlayStation VR2 might not necessarily have been the investment that they were initially hoping it would be. Rather, it sounds like they might actually have a problem here, so we're getting into both of those today, as well as Microsoft confirming their new Xbox Series X console bundle, though I kind of feel that they could have maybe went just a little bit further with this one, and it does seem like some of the community kind of echoes that sentiment as well. As always, though, do hit those buttons below. It helps the channel a ton, but we do have a lot to get into today, so, I mean, let's not waste time here, and let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with a new port coming over to PlayStation and Steam. And this one is a great one, being Live Alive HD. This game released last year exclusively for the Nintendo Switch, and it actually was published by Nintendo in partnership with Square Enix, but apparently it was a timed exclusive, much like their Octopath Traveler partnership years ago. These HD 2D games, though, they are absolutely perfect for the Nintendo Switch. They look stunning in motion, and they feel great on a handheld console. So a very worthwhile partnership between the two. But with that said, if you haven't played this game already, and if you have a PlayStation or if you play on Steam, do not sleep on this game. This is, without a doubt, one of the better JRPGs that you can pick up right now. So if you do like this genre, don't sleep on this game. Now, the way this game works, though, is that you have 8 different short stories to play through, kind of like Octopath Traveler. That game was inspired by Live Alive HD, but each story does take place in a different era of time. Now, the stories do eventually connect in a satisfying way, but legitimately, this goes up there as one of my favorite JRPGs in recent years. It's just so unique in how it plays. The stories are interesting. I like the characters, and it's just a lot of fun to play. So if you are interested, and again, if you do like this genre, Live Alive HD will be available on the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, and Steam, which of course includes the Steam Deck. Again, this is a great handheld experience, but it will be available on April 27th, right around the corner, actually. Now, if you do want to check this game out a little early, however, they also released a demo today that you can play right now, and yes, all your progress will translate to its full release. Now, unfortunately, we also have a delay to talk about today. Well, maybe not unfortunate, probably more surprising than anything else, because I actually think that this is probably a good decision, all things considered, but Atlas Fallen has now officially been pushed back. Now, this is kind of surprising because they just announced its release date like a week or so back, but instead of it releasing on May 16th as originally intended, Deck 13 revealed it's now set for an August 10th release. Now, again, I actually think that this is a good thing because I was never sold on Atlas Fallen releasing in May next to one of the biggest games of the entire year being Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, yes, they are on different platforms and everything. I completely understand that. But even still, there is some crossover with a lot of fans owning multiple platforms. So I just feel like it would have gotten overshadowed, as a large part of the game community will be talking about Zelda instead. And, you know, for a new IP, that's tough to go up against. For a new IP, you need all the word of mouth that you can get, and now hopefully that it's releasing in a slower period, maybe Atlas Fallen will get a little bit more attention, because it does look like it has some potential. If it comes out and proves to be as good as it looks, because I mean, this game looks pretty interesting, we could be in for a surprise hit when it releases on now August 10th. Oh, and if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, I want to go ahead and key you in on a nice little lineup of games that they're offering for free in the month of April. I mean, this is a normal thing for them and everything, and of course you do have to be subscribed, but this month in particular is quite interesting. So they're offering 15 games here, and check this out. So this includes Wolfenstein: The New Order. That's already a great start there. Also Ninja Commando, Art of Fighting 3, The Beast Inside, Icewind Dale, Crossed Swords, Ghost Pilots, Beholder 2, Terraformers, Metal Slug 4, Ninja Masters, Looking for Aliens, Grime, Sengoku, and then Magician Lord. So, I mean, looking at this, there's actually a few really good games here. I mean, Icewind Dale, I mean, that is an absolute classic RPG, and actually a good way to prepare for Baldur's Gate 3, which is releasing later this year. Very much looking forward to that. There's also Wolfenstein: New Order for fans of first-person shooters, but the standout game here for me is Grime. So this is a Metroidvania game that released back in 2021 to to quite a bit of praise. It does have an 81 overall score on Metacritic. It also has an 86% approval rating on Steam, so this is one of the better Metroidvania games that you can pick up, and, well, now it's free for Amazon Prime members. Now, for you Steam Deck owners as well, I think you also need to kind of pay attention to this because it's always good to pick these games up, as there are ways to get these games running on your Steam Deck, and hey, I mean, you can't be free. Now, let's just go talk about PlayStation, though, and we'll first start off here with the good news because, wow, the PlayStation 5 is absolutely flying off shelves. I mean, Sony's mentioned a few different times that they fixed the supply issues that they were previously dealing with, and we've also heard them throw out some pretty lofty expectations for their fiscal year, but to see some of that come to reality is something to behold because they just made history with the PlayStation 5. So the NPD numbers for February got posted, giving us a look into how games and consoles sold in the United States, and the PlayStation 5 did come out on top in both units sold as well as in dollars. But what's even crazier here is that the PlayStation 5 just had the best February for any PlayStation console ever made. Yes, ever made. That means that the PlayStation 5 sold more units in February than even the PlayStation 2 at its prime. So this is a huge record broken, and just kind of continues to show you how much steam the PlayStation 5 has picked up here in recent months. It's, again, just kind of flying off shelves. One of the reasons for that, though, is not just simply because of the supply. It also, of course, needs games. And, well, Hogwarts Legacy is proving to be a legitimate system seller for PlayStation. They, of course, do have the marketing rights here as well as exclusive DLC, and that is proving to be a very smart partnership for Sony. Hogwarts Legacy did come out as the #1 best-selling game in the month of February, and reportedly, it's outpacing last year's big hit, Elden Ring. So, big congrats to Hogwarts Legacy here as well. Looking through some of the other games that charted on NPD, though, you can also see that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came in at #2. More reason that Sony and Microsoft continues to argue over that franchise. Dead Space Remake, that comes in at #3, and that's actually quite impressive here. Dead Space is the 3rd best-selling game for the entire year so far, and hey, that's a great sign for a Dead Space 2 remake. Please, EA, let's make that happen. I mean, they were already kind of asking about that in surveys, but if anything else, the Dead Space remake appears to be doing very well, with also some staying power. Then you also have Madden 23 at #4, FIFA 23 at 5, and then The Last of Us Part 1 at #6. That's an interesting one there. That HBO show is giving a little bit of a resurgence, as you can see. Hopefully, that PC version will be fixed up here soon, but as for the console game, it is good at the very least. Then at #7, you have Elden Ring. I mean, talk about staying power. There you go. Then for a trio of debuts, Wild Hearts made its debut at 8, Like a Dragon Ishin at 9, and then Octopath Traveler 2 at #10. Seems like all 3 of those games actually had quite solid launches here, which is really, really good to see. I mean, especially with those last 2, those are great games. Definitely go check out Like a Dragon Ishin and Octopath Traveler 2. Hopefully, though, they do continue to put up good numbers in the coming months. All in all, though, I'd say that February was a great month for gaming. That goes without saying, and especially for PlayStation. However, not everything necessarily went perfect for Sony, because they also launched PlayStation VR 2 in February as well. And one thing that you might have noticed is that it kind of felt like a very quiet launch. For a new PlayStation platform, strangely, there was very little talk about PlayStation VR 2. Now, on one side, it did get positive feedback with its early reviews. It does seem like a good headset from a technological standpoint, but even still, there really wasn't much buzz surrounding its launch at all. And even for Sony themselves, they seemingly didn't put a lot of effort into its marketing. So I've kind of been curious as to how this thing has done so far, and unfortunately, it's not looking good. So this was posted up by Bloomberg, and they said the Tokyo-based console maker is likely to sell about 270,000 units of the PlayStation VR 2 between its February 22nd release and the end of March, according to estimates from the research firm IDC. Sony had a lofty goal of making about 2 million units for the PlayStation VR 2's launch window, Bloomberg News reported last year. So, by early indications, it looks like Sony is going to sorely miss that mark by a pretty significant margin. I mean, it's one thing to miss it by a little, but that doesn't seem to be the case here at all, and it more so seems like PlayStation VR 2 is majorly struggling out the gate, And in fact, one analyst from IDC mentioned, quote unquote, "I suspect a price cut on the PlayStation VR 2 will be needed to avoid a complete disaster of their new product." He went on to say that VR headsets are just not on the top of people's minds in the current economical environment, which, I mean, okay, that's fair enough, but I don't really think that that's the only problem here. I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Sony did have some success with the PlayStation VR last generation. That is very much true. But the VR landscape has changed quite dramatically since then. There's more competition now. As an example, you have the Oculus Quest 2, which is a much more affordable standalone device. That did not exist last generation. But here we are with the PlayStation VR 2, and it's a $550 headset that also requires a PlayStation 5, which will cost you another $400 to $500. So the money side, yes, is a problem without a doubt, but it's also a closed-off ecosystem that doesn't offer many games that other headsets don't already have. I feel like that it could have maybe done better as either a standalone device or also allow it to work on PC as well. Now, that's probably a doubtful request here. I mean, we're talking about Sony, but only allowing it to work on the PlayStation 5, yes, it does limit its reach quite a bit, which VR is already pretty niche as is. So with the added competition that's out there, I mean, a lot of people are just not going to buy multiple headsets one after another, and I feel like with that has, pretty majorly affected its launch. The other problem here, though, is that if they're going to have this closed-off ecosystem, it needs a true system seller. Right now, Horizon Call of the Mountain is practically its only true enticing exclusive that you can't play anywhere else. Now, Gran Turismo 7, that's also a great VR experience on PlayStation, but you can also play that without VR, so that's kind of an issue as well. The thing about this entire report, though, is that if they really are struggling the way it's been claimed here, you do have to kind of wonder, will Sony invest in the PlayStation VR 2 going forward? That's a bigger concern than I think some people realize, because we saw what happened with the PlayStation Vita. It struggled out the gate, and Sony practically abandoned it, so I mean, we'll see if Sony sticks with the plan here. Hopefully they do. Maybe a price cut will help. And then also, actually, a new Astrobot game, that could help. That was an amazing game on the original PSVR headset, but, I mean, I guess we'll see. Now, we did also get some Xbox news. Microsoft did indeed confirm the rumors were true after all. A Diablo 4 Xbox Series X bundle does actually exist, and it'll be out on June 6th for $560. The bundle will come included with the Xbox Series X console, and also the game itself with a light bearer mount with comparison of Faith mount armor. So, there you go. Though I have to say, I feel like this is kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, it's still a good bundle and everything for a seemingly Game of the Year candidate, so it is a big deal. But at the same time, I feel like a special design Diablo 4 console would have been just a little bit better. But instead, this is just your standard Xbox Series X with some Diablo 4 stuff included. I mean, Microsoft is still clearly showing they're salivating over the idea of having Diablo 4 as a first-party title. You have to remember, they are still going through regulations with the Activision Blizzard acquisition. But I do hope in the future, if and when the acquisition completes, I'd really like to see them just go all out with some of these big launches the way they do with Halo. They made that special console for Halo, and I'd like to see them do more of that in the future. I mean, meanwhile, you have Nintendo over here, and they're making like a new special theme console all the time. I mean, they just announced that new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom themed console as an example. So I would like to see Microsoft do more of that. I mean, if you think about it, they will have some extremely important IP under their belt, whether that be with something like Diablo or, hey, something like The Elder Scrolls 6 with Bethesda. That there would be another prime candidate for a special console. All things considered, though, this is still a nice bundle and clearly still a great opportunity for Xbox having such a big title, not only for their bundle here, but just really as a first-party game. This could be a huge release for them with them having the marketing rights, having this Xbox bundle, and then, hey, maybe even an Xbox Game Pass release as well, depending on when the acquisition will complete. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you prefer the classic Zelda formula with dungeons or Breath of the Wild's open world with shrines? And as you can see here, 48% of you all voted for classic Zelda, while 39% of you all voted for Zelda Breath of the Wild. So, yeah, I mean, this was pretty close in terms of results, but most of you all did vote for classic Zelda, and I do completely agree with you all here. While yes, Zelda Breath of the Wild is the most popular Zelda entry in terms of units sold by actually a pretty good margin, that, however, does not necessarily equate to being the best. I mean, if we're going to go down that direction, we would have to say something like Call of Duty is the best game every single year because it's always atop of the game industry in terms of units sold. So, yeah, total units sold, again, does not equate to being the best. And I do actually agree with you all here. I do prefer the classic Zelda formula. Those dungeons are paramount to the Zelda series, and I felt that that was very lacking in Breath of the Wild. Now, don't get me wrong, before I go any further, I want to go and say this. Zelda Breath of the Wild is a very, very good game. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of Zelda, it is actually probably one of my least favorite entries in the franchise. And I'm just being honest with you all here. I've thought about doing a ranking list for Zelda for years, and I never do because I know I'm going to make people mad. I am. I'm just going to make people mad because I don't view Breath of the Wild as, you know, the best entry in the world. But it is really nice to see that a lot of you all do prefer those dungeons. Now, with all that said, if they take the Breath of the Wild formula and then they put those classic dungeons in a world like that, hopefully they do that with Tears of the Kingdom, then I think that would turn out to be an amazing game. But I do think those dungeons are very, very important, as it seems like a lot of you all do as well. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you like the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.